and this was supposed to be the first video on my channel. Hello, people. Today I'm going to tell you about one of the oldest games that had their start in the first year of early access, one of the holy trinity of zombie survival games of that time, and the only one of them that still hasn't reached full release. I'm talking, of course, about 7 Days to Die, which came out on Steam in December 2013. Yeah, it'll be 7 years old this year. Initially, when it first came out, it was at its core similar to Minecraft, a voxel world, destruction and resource gathering, a craft window with a grid right out of Minecraft, and zombies, of course. How one could do a game without them at that time. Back then, even Rust had zombies, if anyone remembers. However, being a survival horde crafting game, its main point has always been exactly the survival among zombies, not the exploration as in Minecraft, or PvP as in Rust. In fact, there's even a clue in the title. 7 Days to Die literally means that you are given 7 days to prepare for your demise, at least as a possible outcome. To be honest with you, 7 Days on release was abysmal, incredibly cranky, unsightly, and just plain boring. Well, for context, I'd already played quite a lot of Minecraft back then, and when I launched 7 Days, I played around a bit, and then I uninstalled it. It didn't hook me in any way. I'm not talking about that version, though. I'm going to talk about the latest stable version, at the moment. Alpha 19.3. Far cry from the first iterations. So, plot. Haha, there isn't one. All we have is a 2-line synopsis, which basically says that the world died in the fire of nuclear bombs, and all the rest was devoured by a virus, and only Navesgan County, the main game map, remained a paradise amidst hell. When you start a new game, you wake up in the middle of nowhere, with a note from someone named Duke, which hints why you end up there in the first place. As you can imagine, there's no story or main quest chain whatsoever, and neither is the Duke, even though he might be the boss of the game at some point. However, it is unclear when that will happen. This lack of a story is compensated for by solid gameplay. The main goal here, as in all other survival games, is, oddly enough, to survive. Against all odds, enemies in the form of zombies and animals, cold and heat, hunger and thirst. Damn, this is a tough life. So, you have started a new game, you don't really have anything on your hands, except food and drink for one meal. This is where you shouldn't walk around with your mouth open, but immediately begin to perform a chain of missions, which acts as a tutorial. Even if you're too smart, and you do not need to learn all this stuff, this chain is worthwhile, since you get 4 extra perk points, which would be of great help. The game also has hints on more advanced mechanics, so feel free to stop by. Right from the start, you should be concerned about finding or building a dwelling that will protect you and your loot at night. There are all kinds of places, but if you're a beginner, you can break into a bunker, which is right here, and settle in there. Be warned, the walls won't give you perfect protection, so even the bunker will have to be reinforced. Having found a suitable place, place your bed there, to make it a respawn point in case of death, rather than in a random place on the map, so that then you do not have to waddle back home for 15 minutes. After that you can start serious resource extraction and search for loot. The resource harvesting is quite simple. Hit a grass or a tree, get it, pick up a pebble, voila, the age of gathering. Since the bare hands are inefficient for a job, of course, we need to craft an axe and shovel. This will greatly speed up the work. Simply digging mines or chopping trees is not an easy job, as it takes stamina. Stamina is our main resource that is used for most body movements, such as sprinting, waving tools or weapons, swimming, jumping. It regenerates itself over time, but its maximum amount is reduced with the onset of hunger, so keep your body energized. In addition, various drinks help speed up the regeneration of stamina, ranging from plain water to beer and coffee, in order not to be hungry, because what kind of worker are you if you don't eat anything? You have to eat. What a shock. Meals in the game are different, ranging from stale bread or canned food to fresh vegetables or berries directly from the garden and exquisite, by the standards of the zombie apocalypse, dishes. At the same time, you simply shouldn't try to eat everything, otherwise you'll get dysentery, and everything eaten will be wasted. That is, your hunger and thirst will grow until this effect is gone. This debuff is nasty, because not treated, along with satiety, it'll decrease maximum stamina, and you will not be able to run and jump as a goat on an empty stomach. Thus treat yourself, or better simply do not drink dirty water and do not eat stale food. The risk of getting sick, by the way, is listed in the item stats. In addition to dysentery, there are many other debuffs, from abrasions and sprains to fractures and zombie virus infection, just to make the player's life much more interesting. For better or for worse, there's a cure for everything, even the zombie virus. It's not Project Zomboid after all. Back to food. Of course, you can live on canned goods, yet it is necessary to find them. But if you become a farmer or a hunter, that's another matter. Obviously, the best food is made of both vegetable and animal food, but if you're too lazy to wander the plains in search of prey, you can manage with the farming. Formerly, that is, in previous versions, it was enough to create a plant seed and plant it in the suitable soil. Now, however, you need to craft special blocks of farm plots, because only on them you can plant crops. Arrange as many of these plots, and then it's a matter of time. The problem here will only be to find the seeds, or their creation, as recipes are expensive, and frankly, a little inadequate. Well, for example, the creation of one potato seed, or corn, and any other crop, without leveling up costs 5 units of this very culture. 5, goddammit. And from a fully grown bush, do you know how much is dropped? Again, without leveling up? Well, you guessed right, only 1 unit. Yes, you'll get 1 whole potato per bush. Stonks. I understand that this is done for the sake of balancing, because the further you are in a game, the more plants, and the more food, exponentially. But it's essentially done to slow down the player's progression. Consequently, my advice to you, guys, is to create a farm at the earliest opportunity. You won't regret it. Only wall it off from zombies. I, for example, in the previous patch created a vegetable garden underground, but it's easier, of course, somewhere on the roof. It is, of course, better to do it at your base, taking care of the fortification. You can always build the local equivalent of a dirt house, but it will not protect you in any way. You either build your own fortress with traps and barricades, or you get one of the houses into shape which are scattered all over the map. Just patching up the windows and holes won't help because you must always remember about the 7th day. There's a thing in 7 Days to Die that sets construction mechanics apart from other voxel games, like Minecraft and Eco. It's called structural integrity. It means you cannot build 20 horizontal blocks on one pillar. They will just fall down under their own weight. And you can't, of course, build flying houses. Floating ones either.
Не знаю, я не помню, что-то с ней не так было. То ли крыша у нее отваливается, то ли еще что-то. Ну вот примерно про это я и говорил, да.
Ха-ха. Смешно, да?
Naturally, each block has different anchoring strength, different weight and, consequently, different possibilities of construction. For example, a column of wooden blocks can hold 6 wooden blocks horizontally, and a concrete 120. That was in theory. In reality, when I began to record a video demonstration, it turned out that the concrete block did not hold 20 wooden blocks, but only 8. On the other hand, I managed to stick 12 concrete blocks to the same column. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there are a lot of subtleties in the building process, so be sure to add extra supports just to be safe. During construction you should always keep such things in mind, because zombies are always near, and if they destroy the walls of your base, you can become buried under a pile of rubble. Zombies in 7 Days are dangerous creatures. The bottom line is that the zombie who is an unstoppable machine of destruction. Sure, during the daytime and on low difficulty settings they are not particularly dangerous, but at night they run with such speed that getting away from them with your legs is unlikely. Zombies can always inflict bleeding, and you won't notice how you die from it. They can also stun and finish you off. And then there's the virus. Yeah, not the COVID, of course, but it's pretty unpleasant, too. By the way, the zombie virus can be treated, if you're lucky enough to get antibiotics, or at least honey. Up to this point you were just preparing for the 7th day, after which the game itself is actually named. On the afternoon of every 7th day, the atmosphere surrounding you will thicken, you will hear the roar of thunder, the sky will turn red until nightfall, and the night itself will be marked by the blood moon, during which you will be attacked by a huge horde of zombies. It doesn't matter where you are, outside, in a building, underground, hiding, or making noise. It doesn't matter. Zombies gonna know where you are and try to get you, breaking doors, walls, looking for ways around, digging up to you if you're underground. This is quite an experience, especially when you consider the possible mistakes in planning the defense. The point is that your base shouldn't even just consist of concrete walls and steel gates, because like I said, zombies will find a weak point and hit it hard. Your base, for maximum effectiveness, should consist of passageways that the enemy will break into, and where you can easily outgun them. In this regard, during Blood Moon, 7 Days to Die could even be called tower defense. The danger of the Blood Moon is not even in the increased aggressiveness of ordinary zombies, but in the spawning of a shitload of different monsters, from ordinary zombies and their more resilient and dangerous versions, the ferals, to acid-spitting cops and demolishers with bombs. This isn't going to be boring in the slightest, I can promise you that. However, it's possible to fight off the horde even before the end of the night, especially during the first Blood Moon. You can even do it in the second one if you have tons of ammo and strong enough walls. Since Alpha 18 the attack waves are no longer infinite. So, what do we fight dead people with? Well, pretty much anything we can get our hands on. The arsenal at our disposal, in general, is pretty good. Everyone will find something to their liking. You can fight with your fists, or with clubs, spears and knives. If you prefer long-range combat, then bows and crossbows are at your disposal. They are silent, and you can make arrows on the go, but it takes a long time to reload such weaponry. Further down the line you will be able to use firearms, such as various pistols, shotguns and rifles. All these weapons have different variations, which will be available as you level up and advance. The simplest example are shotguns. You'll start with a musket, which is made out of literal junk, and deals decent damage, but only one shot is loaded at a time, and reloading is slow. At the same time, the pump shotgun, for example, can keep 8 rounds, reloading is much faster, and the damage is higher. The only thing is that these shotguns are not just lying around, not in the first game week. Anyway, I would like to emphasize that the gunplay in 7 days is great. The guns feel good when shooting. There is almost no recoil, fairly low chance to miss with steady shooting. In a game where your life depends on shooting enemies, this is very important. There are also weapons of a mad scientist, based on the perks of intelligence. Stun baton and a turret of 2 types, turret sledge and a robotic turret. I consider baton to be a weird weapon, which can stun enemies, but its damage output sucks in comparison to usual homemade clubs. You'll put yourself on hardcore difficulty by using this shit, I tell you. Robotic turrets are a different matter. You can take them in your hands and use them as weapons yourself, or you can place them on the ground, and then they will attack the enemy in their radius, but only as long as its owner is nearby. Otherwise it shuts down. They don't need power sources, only ammo for the shooting version, but this is not a problem, since it literally can be made out of junk. The problem with this weapon, and any other slightly more sophisticated than the stone weapons, is in its crafting. One can't make them without special parts, and finding these can be a pain in the ass, since parts can only be found in the loot or by disassembling the weapons. There you have it. Almost useless 5-level stun baton requires 12 parts, among other things. That is, you have to disassemble 4 of those. And now try to fucking find it. That being said, the quality and quantity of loot only grows as players progress. Within the game this concept is called game stage. The longer you haven't died, the higher your level, the higher your game stage. The level of the loot, the so-called tier, ranges from 1 to 6. The durability of the item, as well as other stats, such as damage on non-living objects or damage on blocks, depends on the tier. Items from the 1st to the 5th tier can be crafted if you have leveled the necessary perk, but the loot of the 6th tier can only be found. You can't, in contrast to past versions, craft them anymore. Balance reasons, I guess. Fortunately, you can sell 6th-tier stuff for a higher price, unless of course you sell stuff you do not need anymore. And such loot is most modifiable, since it has a maximum of slots, meaning 4. Modifications are both visual, colors on weapons and clothing, yeah, at least for now, and functional. Thus, you can find scopes for firearms, mining enhancements, mags to increase the number of rounds in the weapon, flashlights and water purifiers for helmets, additional pockets on clothing, reducing the penalty for carrying stuff in the inventory in excess. Here's the inventory, by the way. Of course, this is not the forest with its true hardcore and realistic backpack. 7 days to die inventory is more akin to that in Minecraft. Well, again, or in Rust, with their grids and stacks. Only one catch: without upping your skills, filling slots beyond a certain amount will affect your speed. You are overburdened, after all. At the beginning of the game this can be very annoying, because you want everything. You do not want to leave anything behind, and there is no transport. At this point the game sort of punishes you for being greedy, because you can't get away from a predator or a fast zombie by doing that. And the number of slots is not infinite. What a shame. Speaking of vehicles, yes, they exist, but require a substantial investment, either in perks, resources, or money. A total of 5 types, so to speak, from creature crawling to creature flying. Bicycle cheap and easy. You have to work the pedal to keep avoiding being eaten alive. It works on stamina, which is both a plus and a minus. Plus the stamina is replenished over time, so you will not be left without fuel. Minus, well, stamina runs out quickly. There is a small inventory, purely as a bonus. Mini bike, transitional crap between a bicycle and a motorcycle. Slightly faster than a bicycle, costs more, runs on fuel. The inventory is bigger. A motorcycle is a serious vehicle, fast and strong, good inventory space, but it can only be crafted from steel, requiring a crucible, which is so fucking hard to find. Seriously, in my last game with my buddies we searched the whole fucking map until we found it. In the end, we had to rake up together the money to buy it from a trader. 4x4 truck is freaking huge. It's the only vehicle in the game with 2 seats. Big 81 cell inventory. Fucking expensive to craft. 300 steel is really something. The gyrocopter is the only flying vehicle in the game. By the way, it flies quite well. Although the controls may seem unusual, it needs acceleration to take off, and the corresponding inclination. Also, it sucks on the ground. Well, and the craft is not that cheap, but honestly, the ability to fly directly, bypassing hazards, except these stupid birds, hills and forests is totally worth it. Anyway, vehicles are not the solution to all problems. First, zombies and animals, too, are not easily killed by running them over. Damage is small, even in the 4x4 truck, despite its visually big spikes, but it can send zombies flying. Secondly, if you think to trick the system, so to speak, and get away from the horde in the Blood Moon, like hell you will, the developers have thought of that, and the super fast acid-spitting birds won't give you a chance to breathe. What can I say? Life's a bitch. There are 2 ways to get vehicles: buy them from a trader for a quite high price, or build them yourself. Now here's the catch: the only way to create any of the vehicles from scratch is to level up a special skill, which is long and tedious. In a solo game you have to spend a lot of time on this, just because of how the perk system works. However, playing with friends can be handy, since one of you can be a pure scientist and rush intelligence stuff. You can, of course, find or buy schemes for parts, and buy these parts directly, but again, bothersome. Finally, it's time to talk about perks themselves. So, when you level up, you get an upgrade point. It can be spent in one of the 5 branches indicated by the attribute: Perception, Strength, Fortitude, Agility and Intelligence. Leveling perks within a branch requires an investment in the attribute itself. That is, you can't level up parkour to the maximum without improving agility in the first place. Each attribute has its own focus and its own perks. They can be conditionally divided like this. Perception is needed for hunters and explorers. The main weapons are spears, rifles and explosives, and the additional perks include the ability to track wild animals, lockpicking and increased chances for a good loot. Strength is a classic attribute of the tank. Accordingly, his weapons are shotguns, clubs and sledgehammers. Cooking skill, the ability to carry more cargo without penalty levels up here, as well as different minor bonuses. Fortitude affects brawling and automatic weapons. Oddly enough, farming skill can be leveled here, as well as perks related to health and stamina. Bow, gun and knife, the choice of agile player. To ensure proper application of these weapons, you can upgrade stealth, parkour and attack speed from this branch. The strangest branch, in my opinion, is intelligence. Finding right weapons for this attribute is a pain in the ass, in the early game for sure, because it is electric batons and turrets, weapons of a middle to later game. Yet the intellectual gets more rewards from the completion of trader's jobs, buffs his comrades with only his presence, and in general super engineer and chemist. In addition to the main branches, there are also book perks, which cannot be acquired with points, only by reading a certain book. They are combined into groups of 7, and if you learn all 7 of them, you also get a bonus one. Excellent system, as long as you're lucky enough to find a book that is needed. Frankly speaking, I cannot say that any of the main attributes are straight better or worse than the others. In some way you'll have to level a couple or 3 in parallel. I will only mention that in the solo game making a build through intelligence would be the most difficult. As I have already mentioned, the weapons are hard to find, and the perks requirements for leveling them are high. Perhaps the developers do not want every vagrant to ride around on his own motorcycle right away. And there are places to ride around. The area of Nevsgen is 32 square kilometers, and it's obvious that it's hard to walk on foot. Of course, at this point, I would be lying if I said that the entire game area is filled with content. Right now, at the time of 19 Alpha, there is a zone in the wasteland, which simply does not have any prominent points of interest. There also was a radiation zone before. Perhaps the developers will finish it later down the road, but it is possible that it will remain empty. Still, the biome is called Wastelands. Perhaps it was meant to be? As for the rest of the map, in general, everything is simple. In addition to the wasteland, the most difficult biome, there is the winter biome, which is cold, snowy, filled with zombie lumberjacks and mountain lions. The forest biome, the ordinary green zone, a simple place, with comfortable temperature, colors, many houses and other areas of interest, wildlife, plants. Burned forest biome, where burning zombies roam, visibility is poor, and generally unattractive. Desert, a hot place, also full of points of interest and oil shale, which can be processed into fuel. What's nice is the air is clean, at least the visibility range is decent. In fact, the whole map is more or less pretty good. It is interesting to explore at least because of the points of interest, which, by the way, are also made of cubes, akin to that in Minecraft. These points of interest are scattered throughout the map, and there you can find various loot, depending on the type of point. In houses, food and water, as well as various household garbage. At gas stations, fuel and car parts. In hardware stores, tools and building materials. In bookstores, books and schemes. At military bases, arms dealers and factories, various weapons. All this, of course, depends on your luck and game stage, so even after searching the whole weapon factory at the beginning of the game you can remain without any gun. At every small to medium-sized point, you have to solve a kind of dimensional puzzle in order to get to the most valuable loot as quickly as possible. Usually, the right path is indicated by lanterns, but if you're too lazy to explore, you can always break through locked doors or walls. That said, looting may not be as easy as it seems at first glance. The bigger the place, in terms of loot generation, the more there may be traps in the form of mines or zombies hiding in the walls or jumping from the ceiling. Carelessness in this case can affect both the health of your character and the color of your pants. If you can't find something you want, you can always go to the traders I already mentioned. There you can buy various goods, with a list changing every 3 days. Keep in mind that the goods are the same for all players. This, however, does not include a secret stash, which is strictly individual for each player and depends on the level of one of the perks. The most valuable goods can usually be bought there. In addition, traders offer a number of jobs, upon completing which you will receive money, experience, and items of your choice. Jobs in general are pretty standard. Go and clear the point of zombies. Go and get stuff from the point and go and get stuff from the buried treasure. By completing such quests, you will unlock new, more difficult and profitable ones, and the locations of other traders. On top of these, you can find notes with challenges while traveling, like chopping up zombie lumberjacks with an axe, or killing so-and-so rabbits with a shotgun. Of course, they don't pay as well as usual quests, but they offer some variety if you're tired of just snooping around buildings looking for loot. By the way, for those who decided that it would be nice to hide at the trader's base, cause it's invulnerable, every night from about 21:50 to 06:05, the base is closed. All the players are thrown out of it, and you cannot get in there. Thus, do not leave your cars close by, or you'll have to wait all night to pick them up. Except for such stuff, the game gives you tremendous freedom of choice in terms of how you play. Do you want to be a builder and construct beautiful buildings and impenetrable fortifications? You're welcome. Want to be a nomad? Yes, even that style of play works, though not in later game, hehe. Want a challenge? Horde every night. Want to be creative? I've seen videos on YouTube where the dude just gave the buildings back their pre-apocalyptic look. Sandbox my dudes. As far as graphics go, 7 Days to Die isn't exactly stellar. Yes, it looks quite decent. After all, it has been reworked more than once, starting from the first versions and ending with the current ones. In the beginning, in 2013, even at the time it looked atrociously. Now, however, the interface is fine, the icons are detailed, the effects in the game are pretty decent, and so are the zombie models. The light in the latest patch has also greatly improved. Animations are certainly lame, especially for animals, but the zombies now react to jumping from a height, falling to the ground, yay ragdoll, rather than attacking the player immediately, which adds to immersion. The sound design is quite good, the environmental effects, the shooting are satisfying. Good feedback when hitting the target makes me happy in any game. Naturally, there are flaws in this game as well. First and foremost, the music. It's not very good. In 7 Days to Die there is a dynamic music generation system from the segments to automatically create the sound accompaniment, and as you can see, the music here is clearly not Doom's or Devil May Cry's one. Another problem: bugs. They are quite rare now, yeah, but they still happen. For example, I had some of the points of interest covered by these blocks, which seem to be non-existent, but through which you cannot see anything. Game with it is playable, but unpleasant. Broken logs do not contribute to the immersion. 2. Trees sometimes aren't rendered at all. They appear and disappear, or players can't see the player's structures from afar. Bug or a feature?
I don't know.
What's the conclusion? On our hands is an excellent zombie survival game. Certainly raw, with bugs, both funny and not so much, still in early access, but with a lot of different game mechanics and subtleties, and therefore quite playable, constantly updated, although they say the console version sucks as fuck, with the possibility of fine-tuning, including mods. As a whole, awesome game, worth its money for sure, even when playing solo. And if you also have friends for survival, that's even better, as fear, excitement and fun are assured. Yeah, it's still in early access after 7 fucking years, but progress is there and the developers are still working on their brainchild. That's all. Thanks for watching. Leave a like, comment your thoughts, subscribe to the channel and play good games. I'll see you in the next video.